So welcome back to part 2 of this interview. Steve Foran, I'm so glad to have you back here talking about the intersection of your work and life. So how are you doing today?
Doing very good, thanks. Good to be back and look forward to our conversation today.
Excellent, Steve. So work-life wellness is a term that we've really tried to be using to replace work-life balance. And it means being well in all that you do in your work and everything else in your life. So what does that look like for you personally, Steve?
Yeah, I'm glad you defined it there, because you must find everyone, even after you define it, we each have our own idea or understanding of what that means, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Each of us do. So I'll just kind of share mine. It's my office, the work I do is in my home. And over this last year, right? So it's just, I have the ability to not work if I don't want to. And I have the ability to work if I want to. And sometimes if I want to, could just be from temptation. So what I've found over the last year is that it's been harder for me to have boundaries between work and home, because it's just this feeling of need to always, if something's there, and especially in the first 3 months of last year, a lot of any of the speaking engagements I had that were in company events or at conferences, they just disappeared. And so you get in this mind, okay, I can't lose any more. I got to get more work. So I felt that I had to have this availability all the time, even more than I did before. And what I was finding, Laura, is that by the end of the days, I was physically exhausted. I've never been physically exhausted just from doing work. Like, it was like I was physically exhausted. And that probably lasted until maybe August. I don't know. It might have been August. I don't feel that anymore. But through the winter, my work-life balance, it gets out of balance because I don't do many outdoor activities in the winter. So and this year, we're not doing any traveling, very little traveling. So I'd say my work-life balance is a bit out of balance now. But as the spring is here, yesterday it was 20 degrees in Halifax. I've been running a couple times this week. And so I get out more and I get more me time. And I don't run first thing in the morning. I like to run somewhere between 11 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which is kind of work time, but I'm just saying that's important time for me. And if it's a rainy day, I'm a fair weather runner now. I'm not trying to win a personal best in any marathon. So I'll take nice days. And so as the time of season, I get a little better at it by giving more time for me.
Well, that's awesome. And I think it's a good lesson to us all to carve out that time for you whenever you're at your best. And I think that's one of the joys of flexible work and flexibility is to carve out certain times of day that work for you to be productive at work and to be producing wellness in your body, your mind, your soul, all of it. So you're a great example of that. Running a marathon, on the other hand, I think that was crazy. Good for you.
Yeah, thanks.
And more than one, right? More than one. Yeah, it's never just one. Good for you. What was your very best time?
It was 3 hours, 10 minutes, and 32 seconds. And that qualified me for Boston and I ran Boston in 1995.
That is super outstanding.
Get a load of this. At the race in Boston, I was probably in better shape, but it was a spring marathon and it was hot that day. So I was 10 or 12 minutes slower at Boston when I ran Boston. And I just kind of said, what age classification would I had to been in to win, right? So I was 32 years old in the best shape of my entire life. And in order to win, I would have had to been in the women's over 65 division.
I remember that in your book, actually. That's in your book too.
Really?
Oh, those women. I think that's
Those 65 and over women.
yeah, I'm saying they're insane, but with great respect.
Like, how do you? Yeah.
Wow. So you told me about how, especially the first 3 months of the pandemic, you felt this intense pressure to bring in more work and always be available, and then it physically exhausted you, Steve. So can you tell me, what's one other time when you've been challenged with your work-life wellness, and how you address that? Because many people are struggling, and if they can learn from an anecdote from your life, that would be great.
Yeah. Probably back last going when I was working in a organization, and I was getting the Sunday night feeling. And so I wasn't engaged in my work. I was, I was doing my work, but I wasn't, when I say engaged, I wasn't emotionally committed to what I was doing. And at that time, I got more reflective. Anyone who ran into me on the street, they would never know it, because people were telling me, how come you're still so upbeat? And how are you doing this? It was a facade, really. It was. But I became more reflective. And I have a spouse who just nudged me, what is it that you do? This doesn't seem like you. And just began to have the conversations about leaving that organization to go somewhere else and having someone supportive to talk to. So that was maybe one of the things that, that I did to help me at that time. This past year, I never stopped my gratitude practice. I think had I not had a gratitude practice that I have today, if I didn't have that this time last year, I'm not sure what I would have felt like or been like. I was optimistic, hopeful, all those things. But at the end of the day, I was exhausted, and I was totally like, I would do whatever I could to keep, the business, my work side going. And the thing was, like, because we couldn't go anywhere, it almost like it was a catalyst to keep doing it. And not that that's the right reason to do it, but I know my gratitude practice definitely helped me in being able to reframe and make sense of the situation in a way that I was hopeful all through last year. And I still am. I'm very hopeful and optimistic about our future as a country, as a people, as humanity.
I am too. And I really believe that gratitude practice plays into that. So, which feeds into my next question. Do you have any other recommendations for how your work in gratitude and your research can help people's work-life wellness? So the ties between gratitude and work-life wellness.
Yeah, I think the biggest tie that, when we see our life, like for me, I saw my life as a gift. And when you see something as a gift, how do you care for it? Like when you receive a gift, like my mom died 8 years ago, just earlier this month. And just like 3 weeks ago, my brothers and sister and I, we divided up mom's jewelry, right? Aww. So we just got around to doing that, right? And so we had the, very caring, intentional conversation about, well, I've got the jewelry over there. How do you think I want to care for that? I want to make sure my little grandson, Max, he's got something that he's going to be able to give to someone that is special in his life, and our daughter, like all these. When we see things as a gift, we care for them quite a bit differently. Mm-hmm. And so when connection to work-life wellness, right? When we can see our life as a gift, and we can be grateful for whatever it is, the whole shoot match. And if you can, great. If you can't, like I said, start with wherever you can, and then grow it from there. And what we know through the research is that grateful people, they sleep more soundly. They exercise more regularly. They have more social connections. There's their heart conditions, their lower risk factors for heart disease and diabetes, greater resistance to viral infections. That study was done before COVID, so I'm not saying that you're going to have that. But so science hasn't totally figured out why, by being grateful, you sleep more soundly or you exercise more regularly. They have some ideas. The exact mechanism isn't totally figured out yet, but they think it has to do with, the ability that you delay gratification and you're more moderate in your approaches to things and you care for yourself better because of that. So that simple practice of just what am I grateful for? And what I would encourage you to do is ask yourself, do I see my life as a gift? And just ask yourself that question. And then if you can't, it's okay. Just continue to come back to that. How might I see my life as a gift?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And I think meditation ties in as well. And I got introduced to the 21 Days with Deepak Chopra, and it was a group that I was invited to on abundance. And it was 21 days of abundance, and we had to do it every day. And it ties in gratefulness, gratitude into there as well. And that made a huge difference to me, so much so that I've kept it up as a habit. And then, so when I do my meditation every morning, I will do my 3 gratitudes along with it. So I've just tacked it on. So that's good. I mean, I used to do some of that, but now I'm making it more regular. I think it's super powerful. Trust me, it really is. This is to the listeners. And that Deepak app is really powerful too. It really is life altering. And I don't get a cut from Deepak, by the way. But I'd love to go to his retreat when the world opens up again. How do you think organizations can play a better role to support people's wellness?
Care for your people. Spend time with them. Care about them as human beings. Allow people to connect together at the human level. The things that, we were able to do when we were in the office together, and we could talk about, hey, the Canucks and the Oilers are playing this weekend. Who you hoping for? And to have those types of conversations, like now it can be harder because if you've got 12, say your team is 12 and you come together on the screen, on the Brady Bunch screen, whatever you've got, it's hard for 2 people just to kind of have that conversation. But if we're in the office together and we're walking into a meeting, you and I, we can talk about the hockey game on the weekend or whatever it is, right? So to create the space to enable people to have those personal connections with each other, because what comes out of that, it starts at hockey, and then we find about so-and-so's mother-in-law or whatever the case is, and people are there to support each other. So, we spend so much time at work. I think it's important that people have those types of connections that the people they work with that understand more than just, oh, Steve's an engineer and he comes in and he's the project manager here. There's a lot more to Steve than just that, or to Laura than just what she does is that. And so I think in terms of supporting work-life wellness, it's just try to do more to enable those types of connections between your people. I've got one client. She schedules mini, with their team all over the region, schedules mini Zoom calls with 2 or 3 or 4 people at a time. This isn't a team meeting. Let's just talk. What are you thinking about? And just doing it in small groups. And she's found that it's just had a really big impact on people's morale. Her sense of her, availability, because, typically she'd be going to visit the branches and they're not doing that. And if all you see them is once a month on some big call, it doesn't feel the same, right? And so she's doing that to create better connections with her team and finding it really, really helpful.
That is great. And the company I work for now, called Humans, which stands for Human and Performance as one clever word, they are doing something that I want to say it because I've seen the impact of it because I'm experiencing it. And what it is it's a fitness challenge, and you get basically cubes for staying active, and we're all on different MS Teams channels, and we're competing against other teams, but they randomly mix you up with people in the organization. And then anything you do, if you walk for 15 minutes, that's 1 cube. If you go on an hour run, that's 4 cubes. So that everyone's entering things and hiking, and everyone's sharing what they're doing and sending photos on a hike and encouraging each other. And it is lovely. It is lovely. So the colleagues there out in Quebec that I work with, and Ontario, and then here in Alberta, we're just all sharing more, getting to know each other more, and staying more physically active. Some of us who have not as much before are doing it more, and those of us who are already active, it's just getting to know the others and encouraging, and it's just a win-win-win.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And, it's very simple too, isn't it? Like the very simple things like gratitude, exercise, like being active, but it's simple. It's not always easy when all these things are coming at us, and you feel like
it's the easiest thing to knock off your agenda. It really is.
At the end of the day, like back in March, April, May, like last year, June, at the end of the day, the last thing I wanted to do was to put on my running sneakers and go for a run.
Right.
I almost felt like I deserve. Wednesday night, I'm gonna have a glass of wine.
Yeah,
and nothing wrong with having a glass of wine on Wednesday.
No. But your best hope would have been to do it earlier in the day, right? At 11, that would have been your best hope, because I bet you would have got just as much done, if not more.
Yeah, I know.
I know. It's easy to say.
Where were you last year? Where were you last year?
This is a fun question. If you didn't have to sleep and you had the time back that you sleep, and I don't know how much you sleep on average, you can tell us, because that's always interesting to hear. But if you had that time back and you didn't need to sleep, what would you do with that time?
So I sleep somewhere 7 to 8 hours a night. And some nights I'll be up for 2 hours, but much less of that over the last while. And I'll tell you, the listener, that Laura sent me this question in advance. And so I had some prep time on it. And I know she asked it to all her guests as well, too. So I was expecting it. At first, you know what I thought? I wouldn't do anything different. I would just apportion my time the same way I do now. And then I said to myself, what a crock of baloney. I don't know if you guys, is that a Nova Scotia or Atlantic Canadian thing? But really, it's like, nah, who is that? Yeah, if I say that, you know what I'm saying? My life is absolutely perfect. That's what it's saying, right? So that's not it. I'd spend more time with my queen. I would spend more time with my family. I would spend more time doing like being a guest on podcasts, to be able to spread my message, but do it because I want to do things that are fun, but I want to do things that contribute and have meaning and make a difference in the world. And I would somehow divide that up. I don't know how I would divide it, Laura. So and maybe as an engineer, you're expecting me 2 hours here, 3 hours here, 2 hours, but in some relative proportion, more of it would go towards my family at this point in my life. But yeah. So how do you make sense of that? Because I know you hear this from a lot of people.
No, I think that is a beautiful answer. I think you nailed it. For you, it's having more time with your family and your loved ones. So thank you for that. And my last question is, if you could have one wish for a better world when it comes to work and life, people's work and lives, what would it be?
I have been to a few professional sports games in my life. Not a lot, but I've been to a couple. And I see people at these games cheering and so excited and just over the top about a game they're watching. My hope would be that people would have that for their life, in the work they do, in the families they're with, in the communities that they interact, that same passion, the thing that gets them mad because the goalie let a puck or whatever, the same thing that they're that passionate about their own life, not a game games are important, but that same thing, that would be my wish.
Well, I think that gets back to the playground analogy. And you should be looking, if you're living your life in a way of gratefulness and gratitude, then Mondays should be happy, right? Monday should be like any other day. It should be happy. And I actually had a tagline on my Mini Cooper that said, creating happier Mondays, because I led a team of career psychologists at that time, and I had my car all decked out, creating happier Mondays. And I was driving around in a bright green Mini Cooper, and my license plate was and still is careers. But now it's white. Now it's like a safer color. And yeah, so that's a bit about my story. I believe Mondays can be happy if you're in the right fulfilling path.
You can. So you know what I mean when I say Sunday night feeling. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. And I really appreciate this interview, because we really explored work-life wellness and how even for a gratitude researcher and author and expert in gratitude, you really have to go back to your own practices and make sure that you don't get overwhelmed with the challenges like the early pandemic period and its impact on your business, and how you need to make sure you take enough time for yourself. And I think that's the same for everyone. We are going to have crap happen, and in Steve's book he talks about crap will happen. That's the one thing that's for sure in life. Crap will look different, it'll be different shapes, sizes. Sorry, that's a bad analogy, but that's not a good analogy. But stuff happens that's difficult. Challenges will happen. And if you can build your gratitude muscle, then when it happens, it's way easier to deal with. It's still tough, but it's way easier. You're not going to as likely fall into a deep period of depression or inertia or demotivation, demoralization, etc. And whether that's an unexpected layoff, whether it's death of a loved one, being hit with a disease, I mean, all of these things, life is challenging. But if we can live with the gratitude and find the gratitude in every day, in some way, shape, or form, in every day, I think we will be better human beings, better families, better partners, better friends, etc. So thank you for bringing that message to the world, Steve.
Thank you very much, Laura. Pleasure to be on your show, and keep up the really good work that you're doing.
Thank you, and same goes to you. Take care and stay well. Thank you so much for joining us today on Where Work Meets Life. I'm passionate about sharing insights from experts around the world on topics at the intersection of where work meets life. If you found this podcast useful, please share with others who may benefit, and engage with us on social media. For more articles, information, and tips, sign up for my monthly newsletter at my website, drlaura.live. This podcast summary contains links to the psychology practice I've founded, Work Evolution, Canada Career Counseling, and Synthesis Psychology, as well as my current employer, Humans, a nationwide organizational psychology firm focusing on culture and performance. Stay well.